The United States and Trinidad and Tobago have confirmed joint naval exercises in waters just off the Venezuelan coast, marking another shift in a region already charged with political mistrust and military signalling. In this footage, we see the destroyer USS Gravely, an Arleigh Burke-class guided missile vessel cutting through open waters. Its profile is unmistakable: angular radar surfaces, vertical launch systems, and a deck accustomed to forward deployments. The ship has operated in multiple theatres, and now it moves into the southern Caribbean to train alongside the Trinidad and Tobago Defence Force. Officials in Port of Spain announced that the vessel would dock in the Trinidadian capital for a series of exercises that the government described as routine cooperation. The ship is scheduled to remain until October 30th, conducting joint manoeuvres, training drills and operational exchanges. The Trinidadian Ministry of Foreign Affairs stated that the presence of US naval forces represents continued commitment to regional security and maritime cooperation in the Caribbean basin. According to their statement, the exercises will focus on improving responsiveness to trafficking networks and strengthening regional partnerships. Yet the timing of this deployment has drawn significant attention. The move comes as Venezuela continues to denounce what it describes as US interference aimed at undermining President Nicolás Maduro's government. The United States recently deployed vessels, aircraft and special operations units to international waters in the same region, framing the operation as part of broader counter-narcotics efforts. The US operation has resulted in several lethal engagements. Reports indicate 9 separate aerial or naval strikes targeting vessels identified as carrying narcotics. Officials state that these actions resulted in the deaths of 37 individuals aboard those ships. Washington maintains that the targets were linked to recognized trafficking networks. Critics argue the strikes have escalated tensions with Venezuela and risk deepening conflict in the region. We now see imagery of the USS Gravely returning to a US naval port. The ship's decks are still active, sailors preparing for maintenance and logistics procedures. These operations underscore that the vessel has been continuously involved in deployments across different theatres, including the Caribbean and Pacific operational zones. Meanwhile, in Caracas, Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro continues public appearances emphasising national defence readiness. In this scene, he arrives to a meeting of the National Council for Sovereignty and Peace. Supporters line the room, applause rising as he greets attendees. The atmosphere is formal but also intentional. These appearances are crafted to show internal unity and resolve. Maduro accuses Washington of attempting to destabilize Venezuela's sovereignty. The Venezuelan government refers to the current US naval activity as an extension of long-standing political pressure. In response to the deployment of US assets, Maduro has ordered a series of near-continuous military drills. The exercises involve conventional forces, reservists, and local defense units. Here we see tanks positioned near residential areas on the outskirts of Caracas. The display is part of the Independencia 200 exercise series, a mobilization designed to signal defensive posture and readiness. These drills combine movement maneuvers, territorial defence and logistical reinforcement activities. Footage also shows reserve registration centres across the country. Volunteers line up, filling out forms and receiving briefing instructions. The government has framed this mobilisation as defensive and preventative, emphasising that Venezuela seeks stability and sovereignty, not escalation. But regional perception varies. Neighbouring governments monitor developments closely, balancing domestic political pressures, diplomatic relationships and economic realities. Caribbean states rely on trade, energy flows and maritime stability. Regional organisations have called for dialogue, cautious diplomacy and avoidance of confrontation. The exercises announced with Trinidad and Tobago occur inside this complex environment. Trinidad's government has stressed repeatedly that cooperation with the United States does not target any specific neighbouring country. The government has positioned this as a continuation of long-standing maritime defence collaboration, particularly regarding anti-trafficking missions. However, the proximity to Venezuelan territorial waters and the political context has made this deployment the subject of widespread public and diplomatic discourse. In a recent statement, Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro addressed supporters, repeating a message he has emphasised for months. We hear him declare, "Venezuela wants peace. We are your brothers. Workers, workers. No to war, no to war. Not war, not war. Yes, peace. Yes, peace. Yes, peace, forever, forever, forever. The words reflect a public stance focused on resistance to escalation, yet behind them lies a broader reality. Venezuela has been increasing military readiness on an ongoing basis. In another clip posted by US defense officials, we see footage of what Washington describes as a kinetic strike against a vessel in the Eastern Pacific. The target was labelled a narcotics trafficking ship operated by a designated terrorist organisation. The video shows the vessel engulfed in flames before sinking beneath the waves. The strategic message is clear: US operations in these waters will continue. While the US frames these actions as counter-narcotics operations, Venezuela sees them as part of a hostile military presence near its territory. The difference in interpretation underscores the political divide shaping the region. Back in Trinidad, preparations for the upcoming joint drills continue. Port facilities anticipate the arrival of the destroyer. Local defence personnel conduct inspections, review operating procedures, and coordinate training frameworks. Maritime charts, coastal patrol planning, and communication channels are being synchronized. For Trinidad and Tobago, the exercises are seen as part of maintaining strong bilateral defence relations and ensuring national maritime readiness. The country faces challenges regarding smuggling routes, illegal fishing networks, and coastal trafficking channels. Cooperation with the United States extends capacities beyond what the small island state can maintain alone. In Venezuela, the public discourse reflects themes of sovereignty, dignity, and self-determination. State media emphasize the narrative of national defense, portraying the US presence as provocation in a broader geopolitical contest. The streets of Caracas show a mix of daily life and subdued tension. Traffic continues, markets operate. Yet military vehicles and uniformed personnel appear more frequently than in previous decades. This coexistence of normalcy and militarization reflects a nation accustomed to long-term political pressure. The Caribbean Sea, in many ways tranquil, becomes a strategic setting where messages are sent not only through words, but through visible deployments. Warships, aircraft, and drills serve as signals, assertions of presence, capability, and intent. These waters connect nations, trade routes, and communities. They also form the boundary between political narratives and military positioning. As the USS Gravely approaches Port of Spain, diplomatic communications continue. Regional states watch carefully. International observers call for restraint. Domestic political audiences interpret unfolding events through their own experiences and national histories. Trinidad and Tobago, positioned at a crossroads of Caribbean maritime space, now becomes the stage where major powers demonstrate cooperation, competition, or caution, depending on perspective. Venezuela maintains that it will defend its sovereignty. The United States maintains it will continue counter-trafficking operations. The Caribbean states call for stability and dialogue. The outcome for now is a tense equilibrium. Exercises on one side, drills on the other, both framed as defensive, both understood as strategic, both occurring in waters that remain shared geographically and historically.